We take a look at the full range of experiences at Universal Orlando's Volcano Bay with 4 Producers Club members on episode 279 of the Unofficial Universal Orlando podcast. Hello everyone, welcome to the show. I am your host Lee and I am on my own. There's no Darren and no Tracy, but I am joined by 4 members of the Producers Club to talk about their experiences at Volcano Bay. So joining us from Plantation, Florida is Mr. Chris Zavala. Hey Chris.
What's up, Lee?
Welcome back onto the show. Nice little reference there, I like it. Coming to us from Bohemia, New York, Miss Jane Katsonis. Is that right? How do I pronounce your name? I know Tracy got it right last time.
That was perfect. Tracy said it perfectly.
Awesome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Good. And also from Baltimore, Maryland, Miss Jillian Dunn. Hey, Jillian.
Kia ora, Islanders.
So hailing from Austin, Texas is Miss Nicole Cristiano. Hello, Nicole.
Hi.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. As I say, we've got basically, we've talked about Volcano Bay on the show quite a lot. You know, we've had Chris on before to talk about his experience. But we realised that a lot of the talk in the press and on social media has been less than complimentary about Volcano Bay. In fact, it's been bloody awful, to be honest. I don't know whether everyone saw there was a guy reporting for, it was one of the news outlets, I can't remember, he posted a Facebook Live video and he was scathing.
Oh.
I think it was an opening weekend.
Yeah, I did see that. Mm-hmm.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, he was.
I think I missed that.
It was not great.
Oh,
And obviously being as sort of into the parks as we are, keeping an eye on opening weekend, I think me, Darren and Tracy were talking, it's like, that is not good. But in fairness, that park's been rammed every day since it opened, so it hasn't put people off.
Right.
True.
Yeah, it was we heard a couple of stories when we were there in July about the park being closed before even some of the on-site guests could get over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know that they were definitely mobbed. Didn't put anyone
back when
off.
Before we moved from Florida, I used to just sit and watch the app every day to see if I was going to be able to go that day, because it would say at capacity most, if not all days, for at least a portion of the day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it only seems to be when it rains that it clears out. And that's the time to be there.
And that's the best strategy.
Yeah. So first off, I wanted to go around everyone and find out how many times you have been and who was with you, because I think that plays a lot into your expectations of what you've got in your party. And there's someone here, oh, my heart goes out to you because I don't know how you managed to tackle that, but we will get there. Jane.
Yes.
How many times have you been and who was in your party when you went?
We went in July. We went for the one day. We never managed to make it back because I have 4 kids under 11, and it was an experience. I think just getting from the hotel, we stayed at the Hard Rock this year, just getting on the shuttle with the gear and just getting over there. We left at around 10. We didn't get to the park inside until I want to say about 11:30.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy, and I guess I didn't know what I was expecting. I thought I might have been able to wear a pair of shorts or something when I was there, but no, I was walking around that park in my bikini with no flip-flops or shoes on, and it was interesting. It was, yeah.
I know what it's like going out to places with 2 kids. I cannot imagine what it would be like with 4.
And one of my sons has severe food allergies too, so it was a challenge trying to figure out where I was going to keep his EpiPens. I need to have them with me at all times, and they were in a dry lock bag. So that was flopping all over the place in the wave pool. But it was tough. It was really tough, and there's not a lot of places where you can sit with the kids and try to get out of the sun a little bit. I don't know if anyone who has that many kids would consider going to a Volcano Bay like that. I think it's, for my kids anyway, I think the 8-year-old, and she was 10 at the time, my 10-year-old had a better time. But for the little ones, it's kind of tough. I mean, we had, even in the, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but even at the kid area in the Tiki area,
yeah,
it's chaos. The place is madness. And there were just kids running all over the place. And I lost my kids. I didn't know where the heck they were. And I'm like, oh crap, man, this did not turn out like I thought it was going to. So
wasn't that relaxing paradise?
yeah, not at all. I know.
Tracy will be listening to this thinking, you were worried about losing your kids? That's why we take ours over there. That sounds like the perfect day trip.
Well, then it would have been perfect. And mission accomplished. Happened a couple of times.
Nicole, what about you?
So it was just myself and my fiance, Ben. We went over there in October. And luckily, we kind of just tacked on this day at the end of our trip after like a long night at Horror Nights, just kind of thinking like, oh, we're just going to go and relax on the beach and kind of like not a very high stress day. But it turned into something that was a little more disappointing than a non-stressful day.
Well, Jane kind of went into it. Did you stay on site at all?
We did. We stayed at Cabana Bay, so it was super easy to get over to Volcano Bay that morning. Through that like convenient pathway.
Yeah.
But you do have to go through metal detectors if you're coming from Cabana Bay. So just know that if you are coming from one of the resorts. But there was no line, so it wasn't too bad.
Cool. Chris, remind everybody.
Yeah. I think 3 times in total at this point. The original time when I was on the show earlier, that was we went during opening weekend. And we went in there with the mentality, and it was me and my girlfriend, Alexa. And we had gone in there with the mentality that it was going to be chaotic. So we kind of set the expectation there. But I can see how if you did it the other way, it would have been terrible. I know a lot of people didn't have the best times then. We did go after our blackouts were there. So I think sometime in August. And we went one more time recently during Horror Nights. I went with a friend of ours, a couple, and it was a lot more enjoyable the last time than the first 2 times, just because you're out of season, completely different experience. But I will say I have not had the chance to do the transportation yet. We got lucky and did Cabana Bay those 3 times, right. And it is the way to go to Volcano Bay. I mean, obviously one day we're going to have to take the bus, but the walkway, and we stay in the tower, so it's just walk down, go across the street, you're in the park, you're good to go.
That's great.
It's so close.
Yeah, if you time it right too, I mean, you can, but like if you have an annual pass, you'll even get like a really good rate there. So the rate we were paying the times that we had gone, I just, we got lucky and paid pretty much the same price that we would pay on a, hotel down the street. So
cool.
That's
definitely love staying on site. Yeah.
Yeah, that Cabana Bay one's a really interesting one as well, because I think we talked about it on before. There's got to be a reason to stay at those cheaper hotels, especially Cabana Bay being as far away from the parks as it is. That it's not that far, but it's an effort to get to the parks.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get the express passes, but if you go into Volcano Bay, that's the hotel to be in, and I think that's quite a benefit, really.
Yeah, they hit on that with that one.
It does seem strange. Yeah, it does seem strange that it has its own lazy river. Yeah, you're 2 minutes away from the Ward Park. But anyway, Jillian.
Yeah, so I was trying to think of this earlier today. It's now 5 or 6 times.
Wow.
Because we went a few times before we moved. So for everyone who doesn't know, I just moved from Orlando back in July. So up until then, I think I'd gone 3 or 4 times, and then I've gone twice since. Most recently was last month during Horror Nights. I went with my husband and our good friends, listener of the podcast, Christina Frendell, shout out, and her husband. We all stayed together at Cabana Bay, and like Chris, we stayed in the tower that's closest to the entrance. So we couldn't get over how amazing it was. We would just take the elevator down to the lobby, and you literally walk out the front door, and there's the gate right there to Volcano Bay. You couldn't possibly be closer.
Yep.
And that is the absolute way to go if you're planning on doing Volcano Bay, and if you're staying on site. Doing that Volcano Bay Tower is incredible, because we did their early admission. So we walked down, went through security. Nobody was there. We got in the park before anybody, really. It was incredible. We were able to walk right up to Krakatoa, get a ride return, and get our chairs and everything. We had a slight issue with that. That wasn't a big deal, but I'll get into that later when we're talking about all the rest of the stuff. But otherwise, it was very accessible.
Yeah. It does seem weird that they've given I understand they want to give the hotel guests, the benefit of early entry, but like it's already been brought up, the fact that it seemed, at least for the first sort of 6 weeks or so, that if you weren't staying on site, you weren't getting into that park.
True.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it seemed that way. But even the people that stayed on site had a really hard time getting in. I mean, we would find out really early in the morning. People that were on their way, they ended up coming back, and they ended up being in the pool at the hotel, saying that the park was at capacity. They had to come back. They were annoyed. You pay all this money, for these park passes. It just opened up, and you kind of figure you want to bang it out when you get there, and then you can't. So there were a lot of disappointed people in the Hard Rock pool for a couple days.
Yeah. That's just going to be a problem, I think, with the capacity. They just weren't prepared for the amount of crowds that they got, which I'm sure is a good problem to have if you're people who are running an amusement park,
right,
or theme park. Sorry, water theme park. But sorry, can't call it the wrong thing.
Yeah, but like you say, it's if people have bought tickets for it and you can't get in, that's frustrating. Like even if you've bought, like say you bought the tickets to get into Islands of Adventure and the studios, you'll still get in there, because as a rule, those parks never really reach capacity except around Christmas. So for 99% of the year, you're going to get into those parks. But to go to a water park and potentially not get in.
Yeah, I think like to give a comparison again, I think I mentioned this last time, was we had the same issue years ago when Aquatica first opened. I mean, we made a trip to go out there, and they would reach capacity every day. And even though we were there in a car, in line, waiting to get in, by 8 a.m, they would just turn you around, because there was already a massive line of cars trying to get in there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I was curious to know if that was the same deal with Aquatica or either of the Disney water parks when they first opened.
I can say yes to Aquatica. I don't remember the other two. I was too young, I think, to remember the other two when they first opened, to have that memory. But Aquatica for sure, I remember that one.
That's interesting.
I think I remember that too. I do remember that. That was a huge issue.
What's this crazy obsession with water parks? I don't get it. Right, so
South Florida heat.
I suppose there is that, yes. But it's just, if Tracy was here, she'd be like, lots of semi-naked people wandering around in sweaty Florida does not sound like her idea of fun, I'm sure. Or mine, for that matter.
Not mine either.
Right, so moving on, obviously, when you go to a water park, one of those things that people want to sort of set the stall out right at the beginning is to have a base of operations. Be that, I think at Volcano Bay you've got the lounges, those private seats that they charge, and I think it's $30, starting from $30, and then obviously the cabanas, starting with Jillian and then everyone else chiming after. Did you pay for the private seating or a cabana when you were there?
We didn't. We never have. We've always just gotten the regular chairs. But you know what? We've never had a problem getting chairs. Even I think one time I didn't go there early, and we still got chairs, no problem. There's just so many, and there's so many different locations that have chairs. They're just kind of plopped everywhere throughout the park, which is great. So we've never had that problem. Every morning we've gone in, we've gotten straight through the front where the steps lead down to the Volcano Bay wave pool area, and we've gotten chairs right there every time. So that's never been an issue for us. I would like to get a cabana at some point. They're just, a little expensive. But I think they would definitely be worthwhile for the included and on location lockers and the ride kiosks, because those are the two most annoying things for me. It's really important when you go in to know where you're going to be sitting in terms of where your locker bay is, if you're planning on getting a locker bay.
Right.
Because that's happened to us a couple of times, and that was the slight issue I had said when we were talking about staying there, was when we got there so early that the main pathway to walk around the park was still closed. Like they were just having it open for employees. So we couldn't walk to that first locker bay. They had it shut off. So we had to cut through in front of the volcano and walk all the way through the sand out into if you're looking at the volcano, all the way to the rightmost side to the east of the volcano, and go to that locker bay, which ended up being quite a hike away from our chairs, which can be really aggravating. So if you're really separated from your locker and where you're sitting, it can be a bit challenging. So trying to maybe plan out, be mindful about where your locker is and location regards to your chairs is probably more useful. But other than that, we've never had a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to agree with Jillian. I'm kind of in the same boat. When we went, we just used the chairs that they had there. And honestly, they have plenty of them. Like she said, I've never had an issue getting one. We looked at possibly doing a cabana at some time in the future. I know my family, they wanted to come. And, my sister, she has an issue with too much heat sometimes. So we wanted to get something that would be covered. But again, it just hasn't had the opportunity to do that, on top of the fact that I think the cabanas have been sold out every time we've gone. So
Exactly. That was my problem too. Yeah.
Are they doing advanced reservations still at all, or are they just first come, first serve?
I honestly don't. It seems to change on a daily basis, so I don't think anybody knows at this point, do they?
Yeah. I remember last time we were there was the first time I had seen a cabana available. And again, this was already off peak, but I don't remember if they said you can advance reserve it or not. But yeah.
Because I know they were when it first opened, and then they changed it where it was literally you had to get there early, and if you got one, you got one. If you didn't, you didn't.
That's what they had said when we had called. When we booked our trip, we waited until Volcano Bay opens because we knew we wanted to rent a cabana. With the kids, it would have made more sense for us. So we did. It's just they had nothing available for the couple weeks we were down there. And then they told us to call back, every couple of days, that maybe someone just put a hold on it and it would release, and then we would be able to pick up the reservation then. But they never had anything. And it was definitely expensive, but I think my situation is maybe a little unique just because it would have had a little more protection, for my kids.
Yes.
And it would have been a little bit safer, and we would have been able to have like a little spot, other than just a couple of chairs, because when you have a lot of little kids like that and you try to keep them either on the chairs or near the chairs, you're going to lose somebody.
Yeah.
But that might be good.
Kind of as like a home base.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, for me, that probably would have been a better situation. As it was, we were able to snag, I think 3 chairs, no umbrella, and we just piled whatever we could on the chairs because people were taking over the chairs that weren't being used and just dragging them to wherever their spots were. I mean, I guess I just was there on a bad day. There were literally, it just seemed like thousands of people everywhere. So that was me.
For the non-private seats, something you've just brought up there, Jane, do you have the option to purchase an umbrella for them or not?
No.
There was nothing.
Mm-mm.
See, that seems bad.
The umbrellas are kind of just stationed throughout randomly. So if you happen to get seats that are near an umbrella, you're lucky.
Right.
You're lucky. Yeah.
Okay, so they've got them sort of dotted around, but you can't get one specifically for your lounger.
No, we tried to. And no amount of money.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like good practice. Not in Florida.
Yeah, it was pretty hot too.
Especially when you get a lot of us pasty Brits coming over who aren't used to it.
It's okay, my husband's pretty pasty too.
I was gonna say my husband's not British, but he sure is pasty. So. It was really funny. The last time we were there, we had chairs that were in the very back row where there was no umbrellas, and there was a group of chairs that had been huddled to the right of us where there was a big palm tree. So he sat himself in the middle of the shadow of the palm tree, in the middle of these 4 people. They had obviously been sitting and talking. So he was sitting in the shadow of the palm tree trying to get some shade when they all came back. And he tried to get up and leave so he wouldn't be in the middle. They're like, "Oh no, stay!" And they all 4 just sat down, and he was just sitting on the ground in the middle of their little circle in his palm tree shade. It was amazing.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Exactly.
You do.
Yeah. My husband would do the same thing, Jillian. That's hysterical.
Oh gosh.
Nicole, did you say whether you'd got a cabana or anything?
We didn't. We actually didn't get any chairs or anything. We kind of just based off just using the lockers, just shoved everything in the locker right when we got there, and then kind of just, used the tapu and was like, okay, we don't need to carry anything on us, and just kind of walked around and used the locker as our home base, which we found was super effective. Just the 2 of us, we didn't really have anything to carry. So, and like the one time I did use a chair was a moment where I just sat in a random chair and held my head in my hands and kind of just was like, what's going on? But that's the only time I used the chair.
I think we've all been there, whether it doesn't have to be in a water park. It doesn't matter where you are. Yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually, the locker thing. But you can see at this point where the private seats come from, because they come as 2 lounges plus the umbrella thing, and you get a lockable box. So obviously the lockable box is that's the incentive.
And the cabanas looked absolutely beautiful. We did walk by them, and the amenities that we kind of peeked in and saw were definitely, I think, worth the price of them. And I would think of using them maybe if I had a bigger party I was going with. But having that access to the Tapu Tapu, like where you can get in on any ride in your cabana, be something I'd pay for sure.
Yeah. That's an absolute game changer, because one of the most inconvenient things about Volcano Bay, and I'm sure you could pick out things to complain about any place, but my complaint, especially with rides like, Hanu, the ride reservation kiosk is all the way down at the entrance of the ride, which is pretty far off the main pathway that goes around the volcano. So it kind of goes in a circle, the main pathway, and then the rides kind of spoke off from there, but the ride reservation kiosks are at the entrance of the ride. And so if you want a reservation, you have to walk to that ride. And by the time you get there, it may be too, high that you don't want to get a reservation anymore, or what have you, or it's broken down. So you have to walk clear across the park and then to the actual ride entrance to even see if you can get a reservation. And they've started to help that issue a little bit with, they've started putting the digital display boards, dotted them around the main pathway, which is more helpful. But having that kiosk all in one place and you wouldn't have to go running all over the park that's a game changer right there.
Definitely.
It is, Jillian. I agree with you. Yes,
I would love to see. I would love to see some kind of Tapu Tapu 2.0 where all the rides are already listed on there, so you can kind of see which ride is good. Go over there, tap in. I don't know. It's just so much.
You better trademark that, Chris. You might.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Working on it.
I forgot what I was going to say. I was going to say something then. I forgot what we talked about. Ride entrances. Yeah, I think maybe they've done that on purpose then, for to be a hassle to get to the Tapu Tapu point, to potentially put people off a little. Oh, I can't be bothered walking all the way around there. I won't bother going Tapu Tapu in that one. Oh, that's
the other thing really annoying with the Tapu Tapu and actually tapping in is when you go to an area, and I can't remember the name of the ride off the top of my head, just because all of them sound ridiculous. So much alike. Yeah, they're ridiculous to remember, right? But I know, like, when we went to go ride a family raft one, there's just a giant crowd in front of it. So to try to even get to it's terrible.
Yeah.
And this is like where the 2 family ride ones are next to each other by the Tower Hotel.
And Moana. Yeah.
There you go. That one.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that one was always a nightmare to try to get a Tapu Tapu in, just because there's so many people, because it's a family ride. Yeah. So then the entire family is going in, buzzing in at the same time. Multiply that times how many families are riding, and it's just it's a congestion area.
Yeah,
it is. That was a horrible design. Yeah.
What were you going to say, Jane? Sorry.
No, we were. I completely understand. We were there. That was one of the issues that we had as well. And we're a group of 6, so we're just milling around trying to tap these things in, and then my kids started tapping and retapping and tapping again, and then they're not leaving the area. So now you have all these kids, and then there's other kids that are doing the same thing and trying to wrangle everybody together, and it's just a huge crowd. So it's not I mean, I couldn't get my kids to go on the rides, my younger ones, but they were really loving that Tapu Tapu, and they were tapping everything they could. Chris, I'm sorry. It was probably my family that was blocking your way to the ride. There were quite a few of us.
Yeah, the wait time's just gone up from 30 minutes to 4 hours.
Exactly. Yeah, right. And it's all courtesy of my kids. I apologize.
Hey, at least they were having fun. That's kids. That's typical kids, though. They don't want to play with the thing inside. They want to play with the box.
Exactly.
Right.
And those Tapu, was anyone else there the day that they had to put the rubber bands on for the kids to make sure because they were falling off, the wristbands? Anyone else remember that?
Well, I've seen the rubber bands, but now they've switched to an entirely different band.
Yeah.
It's more like a wristwatch.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they had we had an issue with the bands. The bands were falling off. I mean, my younger son, he's 4. We were in the wave pool and a wave hit him, and the wristband just went flying. The rubber band was still on the actual band, but I mean, I don't know. It was funny to watch him go in the air like that.
Right, so obviously we've moved on to Tapu Tapu. Let's discuss it a little bit more. Obviously that and the Cula system itself. Nicole, you've been a little quiet, so we'll give you a chance at the moment. How did you find the Tapu Tapu overall? Because I heard it's one of those things that if you get it where everything works, you're having a good day. But as a rule, one thing will work, but the Tap to Pay might not. Or how did you find the whole thing?
Yeah. So first of all, I am like a big supporter of technology in the parks, and like my fiance works in technology, so we were so excited to like get into the park and make sure like check out how it works and kind of take advantage of the whole kind of experience. So as soon as we got our Tapu Tapu, we went and got our lockers, and that worked perfect, linking them there. We got both of ours linked, and then we hooked up the credit card to the Tap to Pay with our ticket, because you have to do it through the app, I think, or that's the way we were told to do it, through the app, and then with your park ticket and your the actual like codes, I guess. I don't know. They handed us like a pamphlet when we asked, so that was kind of helpful. And then we went to the bar to get some drinks, and then got drinks. Oh, also we walked up. They asked for IDs, which kind of I get, but if you're planning to drink, carrying your IDs is kind of counterintuitive to the whole don't carry anything kind of mindset they have.
Yeah.
So we had to go back to the lockers, get the IDs, and then finally we went to Tap to Pay. Didn't work. So that was kind of awkward, because we're sitting there with 2 drinks and no way to pay, no credit cards, because that's what the whole system is for.
Yeah.
That's annoying.
And then later in the day, the same thing at another bar when we tried to buy more drinks, because it seemed like that was the only remedy.
Yeah.
Fastest line.
Yeah, the bartender kind of was like, oh, some days I love them, some days I hate them. Like, they don't really work all the time. So they're aware of it. But other than that, it just seems like it could have been handled a lot better.
Yeah.
Maybe more kind of troubleshooting. I don't know. But when it came to rides, everything kind of seemed a little backwards, like the Hanu and that ride. They have 2 different sections for you to tap in, but like it wasn't completely clear of like, I'm tapping into this one or I'm tapping into that one, because they're on separate sides. And then when you go back in, I would tap in and like, oh no, on that side you tap back in. I was like, okay, well, there's no signs to be like, oh, this is the right one to go through, even though they're literally right next to each other. And then I just had a problem with I think the Punga Racers was one of like the most annoying parts, because we looked on the board and it said ride now, and we were tapped into another ride, went up literally like 2 steps to get into the ride, tapped in, they said, oh, this one's not ride now anymore, it's up to 15 minutes, but we couldn't get on because we were already tapped into another ride. So It was kind of like, I can't ride anything that's not a ride now.
Yeah. How is it set up at the moment still? Because I know they've changed it a little bit. You used to be able to have Krakatau and another. Is it just the one?
No, just the one.
See, that seems ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
If you get one, that's a super long wait. So, for example, the Krakatau, if you don't get it at the beginning of the day, or I know that the Koikiri body plunge, that one can get up. I've seen it like 2.5, 3 hours still to this day in the middle of the day.
Oh
so if you have that as your ride reservation, I mean, you're pretty screwed for a good part of the day. So I think you just have to plan for that. Make sure that your long wait rides are either at the beginning or the end of the day, so you're not blocking yourself from the other rides. And I wanted to make a comment about what you were saying about the ride now. So that's honestly was our biggest issue this past trip. So for us, at least, when the Tapu Tapu works, it works fabulously. And I think they're getting better at managing the return queue line, so it's not as long. It still can get up there, but it's not so bad. Our problem that we were having was associated problem with the ride now. So when the ride says ride now, you're supposed to be able to just walk up and get in line because it has a shorter wait, but that's not what we were finding. We were finding that the ride now, sometimes we're having like 30, 45-minute waits. And I'm not sure how it works, if it's like an algorithm that, calculates how many people are tapping in and then it activates the reservation again or something like that. But what happened to us is we had a ride reservation for a ride. I forget which one. And then when we went to go to our return time, after we'd been waiting for 45 minutes for our reservation, by the time we got there, it was then a ride now, and there was all these people in line in front of us. So it completely invalidated our reservation. So that was the main issue that we had. And my husband said that we were standing online for oh no and oh yeah. And there's these little steps that you walk up, and so you can look down at the totems, where it displays the times. And he said he was just watching it, and it just kept flicking back and forth between ride now, and then it would say 15, and then a minute later it would say ride now, and then it would say 45, and then it would go back down to 15, and then ride now, like all within the span of 5 minutes. So I'm not sure if maybe they're still working out some kinks in how the ride determines, how many reservations it should get out versus a ride now.
Yeah. So
was that more towards the beginning of the park opening or more recent?
No, it was in the middle of the day.
How long the park's been open since, I think, May?
That was actually, that specific, the oh no and oh yeah incident was towards the beginning. That was probably in June or July. Yeah. Whereas the issue that we had with the ride now was last month. That was in October.
See, because I had a similar issue, like you said, but it was towards the beginning. So my thoughts were maybe it's just they need more data to put in here to process how long we need for this and that. But we had weird instances where it would go from a ride now to 100-minute wait. Just really crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then even the employees there were they were kind of baffled themselves because they're like, we don't know what's going on. So they would even let through some people, even though it's at 100 minutes and it said right now 5 minutes prior, they're letting in, people because they feel bad. But then when you think about it, that's also messing up with the algorithms they're trying to do to get this, straightened out. So I think it caused a mess. And I mean, I remember the first trip that we went out there, again, it was a couple days after opening weekend. But Krakatoa, we waited, I think it was 250 minutes.
Whoa.
And it went up and down. So we went to the bar, we went to go have drinks, and we had a few more than we were supposed to. But we were there watching our Tapu Tapu. We would see it. The ride would drop down to 45 minutes, and then it would go back up over an hour. And it just very fluctuated constantly. But that was towards the beginning.
I noticed that too on ours.
Yeah. The weight going up is it's very disheartening.
Yeah, you look down and it'd be like 30 minutes, and then it would go back up to like 45 or an hour.
So am I getting this right? So you can, when you tap into a ride and you make a reservation for something, say it's 180 minutes, you can't go on anything else unless it's a ride now.
Correct. Or it's a attraction that doesn't require reservations, so
right.
Like the rivers or the wave pool.
Yeah. So the thing is, though, if you've got a ride where you've tapped in that's got a massive wait, there's a fair chance that every other ride in that park's going to have a huge wait. So the chances of you getting on something else, obviously never having visited but looking at it from afar, the chances of you getting on something else while you've got a reservation for one thing is pretty much non-existent.
Yeah,
that is true and not true, because for the big rides that get really long waits, like the big blue one, Hanu, the body plunges, or the Krakatoa, those can have crazy long waits. But then the little tube ones will be ride now all day.
Right.
So it's not so consistent.
And I think they also made the Punga racers are ride now all the time, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know one of them, the last trip that we went, there was a ride, I forgot which one it was, that they converted it to a ride now permanently as far as, that trip was going forward. So it allowed one single ride in the park to always be able to wait in line for, in case you have like the same situation. If you're waiting too long for another ride,
that makes sense.
If you want to wait this long line, you're allowed to wait it. You can do it.
That makes much sense.
I think I don't know if it was Punga Racers, but I know Tauiwa. I just say it. The little tube that's like the double tubes. There's 4 tube slides of the little raft. It's like a 2-person raft. Those I have seen as ride now every time I've gone. So maybe that's the one that they made a.
It could be.
Because
I don't remember,
Racers
but I know
has
that.
a hideous capacity. So that one always has a long reservation wait time, even if there's not that many people, just because it's only, so many people at a time.
I mean, Jane, you've kind of talked about it a little bit already. How was your experience with 4 kids?
It was awful. I had the kids. We went over by the the raft ride. I can't pronounce it. Was it the Puihi? I think. And my girls went on with my husband, and it said ride now, so they went, and then they had pretty much the same experience with. It was a half an hour wait at least for them to even get on there, which was odd because they thought they were going on and they were going to come down. So we waited by the exit of the ride. I was there with my sons, and we're just sitting there, we're waiting, and my girls were stuck on the queue, and I could see them up on the top. And it turns out the rafts had gotten stuck, I guess, from the heat. They had that belt that took the rafts up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was from the heat, if they were melting to the thing or what, but they had to get somebody up there with a stick and climb up and try to dislodge the rafts. So we're watching this, and then it's just there's no shade over there either. If you're waiting for someone to come off, so it was it was rough. That was just, and then after that, the kids said we don't want to wait on lines anymore if this is going to happen.
No.
And so we ended up going back into the wave pool. We spent a lot of time there, but they got bored. And the little ones can't really ride on anything. My sons are still pretty small, so he was terrified. My 5-year-old, he just made the height requirement, and he was going to go, and then he changed his mind. So we dug a hole in the sand instead.
It's a funny one, isn't it? Because I think that little kids thing is prevalent throughout Universal Orlando Resort as a whole. And I think a lot of people might say, that's a good thing. No disrespect to anybody with kids, but I think Universal has always set itself out to be a park aimed at sort of early teens and up over.
Right, which I love.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
If you're like yourself and like us, that when we went for the first time, our youngest was 5, and there wasn't a lot she could go on. We were sort of having to split up and ride things with Tracy'd go and ride with our oldest and then come back, and then I'd go and ride with him while the youngest ones stood there bored out of her brains.
Right.
It's an awkward thing, but you think in a water park that you've literally just built, you would think that through a little bit more, because they are trying to aim a little bit more at younger families.
Yeah, and I think the concept is great. The park is beautiful, and the kids loved seeing all these new things. And thematically, it was just a really stunning place. But it would be nice if they had, other than the Tatiki area, just little places scattered around for the little kids that are going to have to wait while the older ones go on the rides. That would have been awesome. But maybe going forward, they'll consider maybe adding a couple of little things here and there.
Well, they have got that expansion coming soon. I say expansion. I still believe it was a section of the park that was supposed to be there from day one. They just didn't get it finished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Quick question, because it's something that I don't think anyone who hasn't been knows. So when you tap into a ride, you get a return time. So obviously I'm imagining that like the old, or like Disney Fast Pass, but do you get a specific window? So if you get your ride, it's ride now, do you have to be there within a specific amount of time to ride now?
I remember I looked it up. I don't remember if there's a maximum time that you have to go. I don't think so, but it counts down. It's not like it tells you a time to come back. It'll tell you 65 minutes, and then it'll count down to 50. And then once it gets down to 5 minutes, it'll let you know, it'll buzz and let you know that you can ride. But I don't think that it'll cut you off at any point. But I think that also messes with the times, because if there's 25 people who have ride nows and they're off doing something else instead of being in line, then it's going to mess with the queue when they come back eventually, but it's not specifically, it's not supposed to be their quote time. You know, it's going to be a longer wait for everybody else.
I didn't run into this issue last time, but I know when I was speaking to somebody over there, I think they changed that. So you have, like you said, it counts down. You'll get the buzz. It'll tell you you're up, go ride. Before, you had an unlimited amount of time. You'd never, were told you can't come back after this time. I think they changed that to an hour now.
Oh, interesting. Well, they should.
Because it was messing up with the times, right? Exactly. If you pretend everybody buzzes in and everybody has right now, it can completely distort it. Again, I didn't run into it and I didn't see anything on the watch that said that. But an employee over there, because we were talking about the Krakatoa and because there was a lot of delays on it, and then they had mentioned that. So I don't know if anybody else experienced that, but that's...
We had tried that with the girls. We were going to go on one of the rides. So we hit the, we went and we did the Tapu Tapu. And then we went in the wave pool while we were waiting. And they decided they didn't want to go on the ride after all. So we just ignored it. And, it kept buzzing, saying ride now, ride now. And then eventually it went away. I don't really remember how long it took before, I guess it took us out of the system. But, we did do that. I think I'm trying to think. I don't think it was that long. Thinking maybe we had the ride now up there for about a half hour. I apologize to anyone for screwing up their ride, but
no,
it was they just by the time we actually got the thing up, they just were bored and hot, and they just didn't want to go. So
no, I don't blame you. Going back on to the not carrying things around with you, Jillian, I actually think it was you and I that were discussing the whole thing about, so the idea of having the tap to pay is you don't need to carry anything around. You put your credit card on and you go and buy what you want. But then if you want to drink, you're supposed to have ID.
Yep.
That seems a bit weird.
Yeah.
I have the solution, and I hope that somebody's listening from Universal, because they do this at City Walk already. If you're 21, you get a wristband. And they can give you those little paper wristbands. So you come in, you go to either you go to a bar or you have a designated check-in point where you show your ID once at the beginning of the day, and they give you a wristband. There you go. Problem solved.
Smart.
Yeah.
I like that.
Not wanting to...
It's easy. It's simple.
To play devil's advocate, but a paper wristband in a water park wouldn't really work well.
Well, not paper. Those ones that they give you, like events that are meant to be waterproof. Those would stay on. And if you needed to get a new one, you could throughout the day. But I mean, that's the problem. I keep mine in what I like to call God's pocket, if that's not a little too raunchy for everyone. But to avoid having to go back and forth to the locker all day. But I have a one piece, so that makes it a bit simpler for me. My girlfriend who went with me last time, she was wearing a bikini. She was like, it's not going to stay, so I'm not going to carry it there. I have to fly back. I'm not risking losing my driver's license.
You can obviously tell how dirty-minded I am, because God's pocket, I went somewhere probably entirely different from where it actually is.
That's exactly where I thought it was, too.
I don't know if maybe women know what that is.
Yeah.
Your top lead.
All right, fair enough. I was going somewhere else.
Just to comment another thing on that, one of the things that really was annoying was when you'd go to buy something and you have your pass, you don't get your discount, right? Because you don't carry your pass on you. So everywhere when you bought food, you didn't have your pass. That they sell it off to just wear your Tapu Tapu, but they won't link your Tapu Tapu.
That's true.
Pass discount on there. Even,
you do have to bring your pass.
Yeah, and even though, and it's very odd, because if you use the app on your phone, you register your Universal Annual Pass on there. You register it to your watch. It should know, or Tapu Tapu, sorry. But you should know that it's an annual pass and, it should get a discount, but it doesn't. It's kind of...
It should, yeah.
It should, definitely.
Is that why they changed them over to plastic passes?
Yeah.
So you can carry them around with them in God's pocket.
Yeah, put it in God's pocket.
I'm going to use that so much now.
Oh no, what have I started?
I'm going to Urban Dictionary. I'll be back.
It's funny. I like it.
I don't do that.
Trust me, my mind has just gone in 1,000,001 different directions, and it's not good. Right. Let's take a quick break, and obviously if you're planning to visit Volcano Bay next year, the best people you could use to plan your vacation is Mouse and Muggle, so let's go and hear from them.
Hey you, that's right, you. Doesn't listening to the crew at UUOP every week make you wish that you were actually at Universal Orlando Resort? Well, stop wishing and start doing. Mouse and Muggle Travel Company is the perfect place to begin. Their team of concierge-level travel planners will help you every step of the way. From finding the right fit for your family and budget to customized itineraries and insider tips. They can handle it all. Even if a hiccup that is up to no good arises during your trip, Mouse and Muggle Travel Company will manage the mischief for you. And for you muggles who also love the mouse, their team of experts specialize in Disney destinations too. And the best part of all, their services are free to you. So, if you're ready to plan your next Disney or Universal vacation, let Mouse and Muggle Travel Company do all the work for you. Just go to mouseandmuggle.com and fill out a no-obligation quote request. Or send an email to info@mouseandmuggle.com. It's that simple. So what are you waiting for? Just raise your wand and repeat after me. Accio, phone. Didn't work? Muggles. Here, try some pixie dust instead. And remember, whether you're a mouse or a muggle, Mouse and Muggle Travel Company can help make your next vacation simply magical.
Welcome back, everyone, and we're nearly at the end of this. I can't believe we've been going as long as we have so far, but I wanted to finish off sort of digging into the food, because as we know, one of the biggest things that Universal really used to market Volcano Bay before it opened was the amount of food options and the sort of specialty food options at the park that we have seen removed. A lot of them, actually, not long after it opened, there was a lot of uproar. It seems like a lot of them are coming back, which it looks like it seems to be that people were complaining, and it'd be interesting to get your perspective on this from when you guys went. It seems to be that they got rid of a lot of the signature items because it was just taking them too long, and they kept the easy stuff, so it was easier to get people in, order food and out. And now it's quieting down a little bit, that they're introducing some of those specialty items back in again. And we've kind of mentioned the tap to pay. Toupee. I can't say it any other way. Thank you, Tracy. Chris, start us off, because I know you tried quite a lot of the food. How was the food? And everyone else just chime in on your experience. Actually, Jane, very interested how you got on with your kids, and especially, obviously, you one with the food intolerance.
We really enjoy the food. We've been trying to kind of sample something different every time, but overall it was really good. Pizzas were great. I was bummed when they took away the tacos, but they did bring them back. Yes. I think.
Yes.
So happy about that. Leave my tacos, Universal. You hearing that?
Because they took the tacos away from the place that's called, what is it? Something Frog Taco, and it's like, really?
Feasting Frog Taco.
That's the one.
Yeah.
It was the oddest move I've seen with taking away food at that park, but yeah, it was really good, and I think they didn't touch the drinks, so that's fine. I'm good with that too.
Let's leave Jane till last. Nicole, how did you try any of the food, and how was it?
So I thought the food was really good. We actually had the chicken sandwich, which was suggested to me by a friend of mine from college who works at Universal. And he was like, you need to try this. The avocado mayo is delicious, which it was. So no complaints, really, and no complaints about the drinks either. And they had really good options. I'd like, if we ever do go back, I would like to try, an assortment rather than just one thing.
I do find it funny, the amount of alcohol options in a water park. It doesn't really sound like it should mix, really.
In the hot sun too. Like it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, you got loads of people going down water slides. Doesn't sound like a recipe for fun.
Well, I would have killed for a drink when we were there. We never even had a chance to have anything. We never had any of the drinks. We didn't have a chance to have any of the food. all the seats were jam-packed with people trying to eat. And I guess that goes back to having the extensive menu, because again, we were there, I think just a few weeks after the park opened. So it did seem like the service was relatively slow. And we sat down, we finally managed to get a seat, and those seats were hot too, especially for the kids. If you didn't have a seat that had an umbrella at the table and those seats were in the blazing sun, you try to get a 4-year-old to sit in a seat like that.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, it was crazy. So then finally we just got up and walked away. We never ate. So
At all?
No, not at all.
Wow.
Yeah, we didn't eat anything. I mean, luckily they're the little kiosks with the, bottles of water and stuff. So we had something to drink. But my kids went all day and didn't have anything to eat through the whole day. Not mom of the year.
No, but it's not. Like, at the end of the day, that's not your fault. That is ridiculous.
It was tough. We couldn't
think-
get I was looking to try to find someone that had an idea of what the ingredients were and some of the items on the menu. Nobody had a clue. Trying to nail somebody down, even just to try to get an order, and when we went on side to go try to get on the line, it was insane. It was just insane. We didn't have really good luck with the food that day. So, but that might.
I think, or at least I'd hope that was probably an park opening kink that they've worked out, because I haven't seen any crowds like that since. So hopefully if you were to try to go back, that would be kind of sorted out a little bit.
I would
It
love
is,
to go back.
But that's bad. Even opening couple of weeks for a family with 4 kids under 11 to not be able to get something to eat is pretty bad show, really.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah, that's for me. I mean, that was probably the worst part of the day, just not being able to have the kids have something to eat. We looked forward to it. We from the beginning of the day, just getting everything together and getting there, and then looking forward to lunch, and they can't eat anything. So it was a little disappointing.
Yeah.
I guess from that standpoint.
It's not even if you could think, oh well, I'll tell you what, we're only a 5-minute walk for Cabana Bay. Let's just hop out. We'll go to the food court in there. But the problem then is if you might not get back in.
Right. That was what we were afraid of. We were afraid that we knew that they were already at capacity. So we debated, can we go back to the hotel and then come back? But it took us like an hour and a half to get between waiting online for the shuttle at the Hard Rock, coming on over, and then walking back into the park and going through the metal detectors and stuff. So it was, it was a little, we just said, nah, it's not worth it. We'll just hang out for a little while more, and then we'll go back and get an early dinner. But the food, the menu looked awesome.
From a distance.
I was looking forward to those tacos. I want a taco.
Actually, I didn't think the tacos were anything to write home about.
Like one of those homeless people for the face pressed up against the window.
Exactly. That was me.
Gillian, did you have much when you were there? When you've been there more than everyone else, so I'd assume you did actually get something to eat.
Yes, we did. We've had a lot. The tacos were my least favorite. The tortillas were not great. They were just very kind of chewy and not very flavorful, and they were kind of nasty. But the plantain chips and the guac are amazing. So I would go there back just for that. But everything from the main eateries that we've had have been absolutely incredible, better than anything I've ever had at a theme park. We've had, I won't say everything. My favorites are the jerk chicken, mac and cheese, the barbecue pork burger, and the coconut curry chicken are all amazing choices.
Oh, yeah.
Everything has been, but everything that we've had from the main restaurants has been really good. I was a little disappointed actually the first time we went. I don't know why, but I had it in my head that one of them, I think it was the Kohola Reef restaurant. I thought that was going to be like a sit-down restaurant, but they're all quick service.
You can tell Gillian's been more than everyone else. She knows the names of everything properly.
Thanks it well, too.
Thank you.
I just remember the name Boat Bar. That's it.
Boat Bar.
That's all I remember.
I will say, though, the best drink is the Guavarama. I swear by it. It's amazing. The Guavaramas are to die for. And the Volcano Blossom beer is actually really good, too. And you need to use the souvenir cup because they give you the souvenir cup and you get a discount if you keep it with you. So I always travel with like 6 cups whenever I go to the parks. So to
I
take
do
4
that too.
nights.
Or if you're me, you forget them every time and have a collection at home.
That's a true Universal fan.
Yeah.
So it seems, like I say, we've sort of run the gamut of experiences from the great to the not so great. Jane, my heart goes out to you, it really does, and Nicole for that matter. But Jane, with 4 kids, I can just imagine. Just the disappointment from the kids would be bad enough, it's...
Yeah.
Yeah, as an adult, you can brush it off and you sort of understand what's going on, but from a kid's point of view, they don't know. They just think, oh, we're getting all excited to go to a water park, and then it's like, well, that was crap.
Yeah, exactly. But the best part of them not being able to eat, though, is that they were so weak from hunger that they couldn't complain or fight anymore, so that was good.
There we go. That sounds like Tracy. Yeah. But I think it's so. Jane and Nicole, obviously, did you approach guest services at any point to sort of voice your frustrations at the end of your visits?
I actually didn't. I know I was talking to Ben about it earlier today before I was coming on the podcast, and he was like, "Did you ever write an email?" And I was like, I really should. So it's one of those things where it was disappointing, but maybe not disappointing enough where it was in the front of my kind of brain being like, I need to do this right now. But I know it should be done. It's like one of those things.
I think I wrote a letter just about the options for kids with food allergies.
Yes.
Just to try to make that a little more transparent. Just to make it a little easier for parents that have kids that are going to be at the park. And I think I did receive a short email back from them. I'm going to just run through my emails and see what they replied. I think they apologized for not having, that we had that experience, and that they're going to work harder to improve that area in the future. And that's pretty much where I left it. But I did write a letter. So I don't really know how much it's going to do, though. I guess... I don't know. It would have been cool. I know that going forward, I would go with my husband to the park. I wouldn't necessarily take the kids again, even my older girls. But for my husband and I think that would be a really nice day. With the weights and stuff. That's okay. It's all part of the experience. But I mean, I would love to go back.
Yeah, it's tough. We would always say if you've had an experience that hasn't been as good as you expected it to be, always go to guest services, but do it with respect. You get the people that go in shouting and bawling, and that's not going to get you anywhere. At the end of the day, you've got to come at it from the perspective that I know it's probably not going to make my experience any better, but it could help people coming after me and my subsequent visits better. And they're not going to know of certain problems, like Jane, yours specifically with the food there, unless people tell them about it.
Right.
Because 90% of the people going to the park probably don't have those issues. So it is a very small minority that are going to have the same issues that you have. I mean, having to carry these EpiPens, something that I'll be honest, I would never have even thought about.
Yeah, that's it's not something that a lot of people that don't have that think about. But my son's has airborne allergies too, which is why when I lost him in the Tatiki area, I got a little nervous because, if someone's eating something that has nuts in it, and I know that they had some things on the menu that had nuts, and they breathe on him, he could go into anaphylaxis. So I like to keep him with me, as close as I can at all times. And I mean, honestly, it's a challenge, just taking kids in general, but taking a kid that has severe allergies like that, you wonder, is it worth the risk, I guess, sometimes. And I mean, I took the risk. He had fun in the wave pool, and he liked the river. He had fun in there, which was nice. It wasn't so nice for me, but
speaking of that experience, Jim, would you like to tell everybody? I'm glad you brought that up.
I've been waiting for this.
Here's a warning, ladies, or men too. I was wearing a 2-piece. I had a bikini on. I was holding on to one of the tubes. With my husband had my other daughter and my other son, my younger one, and I had my other daughter and my little guy. So one of the tubes went and was going in a direction that my son freaked out and didn't want to go. So I went against the current to try to grab the tube and move him in the other direction, and the bottom of my bathing suit came off. It wasn't really, yeah. And there's all people, standing, I guess, on the side, and I caught it with my foot. Obviously, put it back on, but you can't live that down.
You know what? I thought you were going to say your top came off, and that would almost be worse because everybody could see it. If you're under the water.
Well, I think I was so focused on my bottoms coming off that for all I know, my top could have been down. But by the time I got my bottoms back up, I almost lost it. That current is strong. that suit was on its way.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, it was, don't stand in that current.
It's a good job you caught it, otherwise that would have been a horrendous experience.
Awkward.
Very. They got to see God's pocket. Oh no, hang on, that's the other end, isn't it?
Oh no.
Told you I'm going to use that one to death now.
I love God's pocket.
Yes, I like it. I'm going to use it a lot. I'll say it at work tomorrow and be like, what are you talking about?
I use God's pocket all the time. No, it's...
Oh, yes.
But yeah, that was fun.
It's funny to talk about it now, but at the time, I'm sure you were mortified.
I was purple, and that wasn't from the sun. Yes.
Right. Well, believe it or not, we are an hour in. I can't believe it's flown by. So I just wanted to go around the table and basically, everyone give a sort of their best tip for how something that they could give to potential people going out next year of a war. I don't really know how to put this. Just a best tip of how to get the most out of the day. And we can't all say stay at Cabana Bay. So we shall go with Chris. Go on, Chris. You go first.
I would say get there early and try to hit up the longer waiting, lines first. Go to Krakatoa, one of the best rides they have, and that's also one of the ones that gets the longest wait, I think. Get there early.
Jane? Don't take the kids.
Get there early. Get there early. Wear one piece and definitely wear those beach shoes. Don't walk around with no shoes on. It's hot. So definitely, especially if you have little kids, those slip-on beach shoes are great.
Definitely.
Do that
now. To avoid saying what everybody else has already said, because I agree with all of those. Yeah. I think to use the tapu, and what I mean by that is I've seen people going around getting food, getting drinks, going on the non-reservation attractions without ride times. And if you don't have a reservation while you're doing other things, you're doing it wrong. You got to have that reservation because otherwise you're wasting your time. You've got to use that tapu effectively.
Okay. Nicole, final one?
Yeah, I agree with Jillian 100% and everyone else. But also just shout out to the Kiri body slide. That was hands down my favorite part of the day. So if you can go on that one, do not miss it. It's a rush of fun. And also the serpentine body slides. I would literally just go back to that park, do those 2 rides, and go home.
Actually, that's a quick question I've got before you. I know there's a lot of people who aren't comfortable with exposing their naked flesh. And I know a lot of people wear sort of T-shirts or those rash guards. But I've heard that there's certain rides they won't let you on with them on. Is that still correct?
I don't know. I've heard it both ways. I think it kind of depends on who's running the ride that particular day. I've heard it. Some people, they'll let them up with the rash guard. My friend's husband wore a shirt most of the day and he never had a problem.
Okay.
It kind of depends.
You know what? I actually did have a team member tell me to take my necklace off before going on both of them.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's very interesting.
Oh, I did not.
Because that seems to be something that changes hour by hour, not even day by day, does it? They change the weight limits for some of the rides. And
they did that a lot, yeah.
The thing I think I would say in general about Volcano Bay is I think we just need to give it a little bit of time, just because a lot of these things are so new, in terms of the weights, maybe not, but the weight, I mean, by body weight. But the tapu in particular, it's a brand new system that's never been done by anything before. The closest thing to it is the Disney FastPass. It's a completely different system. So I think that we just need to try to be patient and give it some time for them to work out the kinks. Because once it does get to working, and when it does work now, it works amazingly, and it helps. At the end of the day, you're standing in line for less amount of time. So I think we just need to give it a little bit more time for them to work out the kinks.
The problem is it's only ever going to run straight when you've got people coming through the park, and the only way to get that data to be able to run properly is to put people through. So until you get people in, it's not going to work. And they didn't really all right, they did like the media preview day a couple of days before that maybe had 200 or 300 people in the park, and I'm sure they'll have done team member previews, but to get it opening day where it's literally at capacity, and I would be interested to find out what capacity is.
Right.
That's when you're going to start working it out, and it's probably now it's quieter, they'll be working all that data through, and it's now that they're going to start really sort of working those cueless times out. I mean, if you look at Jimmy Fallon, that's been a bit of a farce from the start because they've changed. There wasn't a standby line, and now there is a standby line, and I don't really understand how you can have a standby line at a cueless system. But what do I know? It's just odd. But yeah, that's good. That's been really good. I hope everybody listening to Jane, Chris, Jillian and Nicole talk about their experiences has allayed some fears, but also sort of given people the ammunition and the weapons they need, that when they go, they can manage their expectations and make the most out of it, even if things don't necessarily go exactly how you want them to go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So,
and don't forget to bring God's pocket too. So.
Never leave home without it.
Luckily, God's pocket is always with you, Chris.
There you go.
oh
Yep.
man. Cool. Right. Thanks a lot, Jillian, Nicole, Chris, and Jane. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
So for Jillian, Nicole, Chris, and Jane, I have been Lee, and you have been listening to the Unofficial Universal Orlando podcast.
Well, that wraps up another Unofficial Universal Orlando podcast. Thanks for listening. Between shows, please subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes. It really helps. But if you're not an Apple user, you can find us on Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, or wherever great podcasts are found. Head over to our blog at uuopodcast.com for show notes, articles, and more. You can get in touch with us by emailing podcast@uuopodcast.com or leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/uuopodcast. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube. Just search UUO Podcast. And if you're planning a trip to Universal Orlando or Walt Disney World, please check out our sponsors by going to mouseandmuggle.com to book your next trip. Well, that's a wrap. See you next week.